Pink Power Ranger, I think, might have been my first crush ever.
Really?
Actually. Yeah.
So like,
she's fine. If you look her up now, I'm like, wow. She's probably the woman that like was the first person that was like, wow, like girls are cool.
The Pink Ranger. Shout out to the Pink Ranger.
Shout out. If you're watching
Pink Ranger
this,
and Bugs Bunny.
I think
What did he say?
Bugs Bunny. I think
What's up, dog?
Jake just said Bugs Bunny was the one that the first crush he had. So.
are you talking like Space Jam, like whatever?
Wait, what was her name?
Lola Bunny.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a gaff.
Lola.
But now we have our second clip for the podcast.
Yeah.
So Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 2 of Perfect Thursday. Who thought we'd make it this far?
I certainly did.
I didn't think we'd make it off the ground even. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here with you guys. Episode 1, thank you, everybody who tuned in and watched. Like I said, that's step 1 is done. Mm-hmm. How many times do you have to do something before it becomes a habit?
A lot.
Okay,
I don't know.
Well, I read 2 somewhere. So episode 2, it's now a habit. We'll see you every Thursday. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Cal Adomitis, our next guest to the podcast. Claps for Cal.
Thank you, Cal.
Thank you.
Cal, you
Good
are
to be here, guys.
Yes. You are Mr. Pittsburgh. Do you know that?
Now I do.
Yeah, I gave you that crown, and that's because the first time I ever met you, I got like the questionnaire on you from Central Catholic High School. Won all the Whippeals, like played long snapper, walking on to Pitt. That is the story of every Western PA kid in my mind. That's like the glory walk. So given that is what we know about you, probably people at home don't know as much about you, start there. What made you want to come to Pitt? What made you fall in love with Oakland? Tell me about it.
Well, Jimmy, it's there's bits and pieces of the story that might upset some people, but
let's hear it.
We want it all.
That's what I mean.
The unedited story. So, not to break your heart, Jimmy, but growing up, my dad was actually a Penn State grad.
All right, wrap it up.
Yep. Come on.
This is a terrible idea.
Wait, guys, it gets better. Don't worry. Okay, so growing up, grew up actually like obviously watching both schools, but I have to admit, I watched a lot of Penn State football as a kid.
I can't even imagine this.
And it's hard to imagine now. I know. It really is.
I actually don't believe you. So
this is 100% true. This is a true story. But yeah, so growing up, obviously went to Central Catholic. My dad went to Central Catholic as well. And then with my older brother, Graham, who was more highly recruited than I out of high school, he was getting a lot of love from, some D1 schools. And he had, I think, double-digit offers, actually, by the time he was a senior. Yeah.
Wow.
So he was pretty much a stud in high school.
He's a big boy.
He is a big dude.
Did we call the wrong Adomitis?
You might have. But yeah, and then he ended up going to Princeton. And then when I came around as well, obviously was getting some love from like D2, D1 AA schools as like a fullback tight end, but not really getting any offers.
Is that what you played in high school? You were fullback?
Yeah, I didn't start long snapping until my junior year, actually.
We got 3 fullbacks.
That's right.
This is the most undersized group of fullbacks that's ever been assembled.
We're missing a lot of brain cells in this.
A lot of 30 base mic for all of our teammates that know exactly what that is. A lot of 30 base mic between these
my
three.
My neck is twitching.
Yeah.
All right, so continue.
Beautiful. Yeah, so wasn't really reeling in the offers or anything, but then started long snapping my junior year as a way to just get on the field more. I mean, our team at Central was stacked. Our tight end room was me, Rashad Wheeler, David Green. David Adams played a little fullback, but mostly linebacker. But everybody in that room was like a Division I prospect.
Right.
So it was deep. So I just had to long snap to get on the field more. End up tearing my knee a little bit senior year. That kind of shut down some of the looks I was getting as a tight end. But Pitt had given me a preferred walk-on the summer before, and they stuck with me. And then in that same summer, I'd gone to Penn State's specialist camp as well. And not to get too far into the details, but Pitt's camp was a great experience. Like Coach Narduzzi was there, Coach Powell was there. They were like coaching, interacting with us.
Right.
Like ended up winning the long snapping competition, which was when they gave me a preferred walk on a couple weeks later. But at Penn State, like I think Coach Franklin showed up for like 5 minutes. Like
didn't want anything to do.
They didn't even have like their coaching staff running the camp. It was like they had like this outside third party. Yeah.
So they broke your heart, is what you're telling
Basically,
me.
yeah.
Big fan
from a little bit of spite in my heart, a little hatred in my heart, I was like, you know what? These guys, I'm going to Pitt. You can bleep that out, but
Listen, in my eyes, that's not the story of Cal Adomitis.
Well, that was, you're a big Batman guy, you know, from that little bit of pain was, where
born a hero.
Where just a passionate Pitt man came to be born, and, just really haven't looked back since. My whole family has just been so blessed with what Pitt has provided me, and I mean, Coach Narduzzi's been outstanding to my family, and he's like another father to me. So it's just like my whole family now is just all Pitt. I mean, it's like it is a complete and utter, 180 in the Adomitis household.
Listen, we love to hear that. We love conversion stories, and here we are, and now you're here and a Pitt guy.
I'm like the St. Paul of Pitt football.
The St. Paul of Pitt football. That is actually. That's going to be our first T-shirt for you, the St. Paul of Pitt football.
Yeah. I took 5 seconds to try to figure out what that meant, and
St. Paul. It's a Catholic thing.
Yeah,
I'm Catholic.
We'll get you to church.
Anyway, going back to your high school days at Central Catholic, talking about those names with David Green, Rashad Wheeler, obviously all the products that came out of Central Catholic. I think especially starting off there, like what was that like going into a private school with a program that large and that successful? Like you look at me and Jim. We're from smaller public schools where we might have 30 kids on the team. So I guess walking in, as a freshman, going into that, like, what was that like? Was that nerve-wracking? Like,
it was definitely a little nerve-wracking. But for me, to be honest, I needed a little bit of like a fresh start. Like I had a good group of friends at North Hills, and North Hills has a really good like youth football program. Like I consider the league that they play in, the SSYFL, and like their youth program like one of the better in the Pittsburgh area, just from like coaching and tradition and stuff. But when my brothers had gone to Central, there were a little bit of bad blood in some ways with just some people who felt like because Graham, like from elementary school through like until he was going to high school, they were like, this kid's like really good. Like he was the best guy on the team every year. And so when he went to Central, some people weren't super pumped about that. And kind of me still being at North Hills for 2 years was like a little bit awkward after that. So going to Central, like it was just a good chance for me to kind of like blank slate, like just start anew, just do what I wanted to do, make a new group of friends.
Yeah. That's what I'm hearing. High school.
There was definitely a little bit of high school politics.
Look at us talking high school ball.
I mean,
right
we are washed up.
I got my Letterman jacket in the changing room. I'm ready to
we all should have won.
I literally just bought online like a 90s retro like Pitt like puff type jacket, just like blue and gold and just says like Pitt on the back.
I can't wait for you to rock that on game day.
Probably draft day will be my draft day fit.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that. But that's a good transition point right there. So, like, when you walked on to Pitt, obviously we're going to get into the story of, like, everything you did to work to the point that you're at today. But, when you started that journey, did you think for a second that you'd be looking the NFL, like, be on the doorstep of potentially getting drafted here in a month?
It's definitely what I would have dreamed of happen. But, up until that point, I can't say that there were many things in my like athletic experience that had really gone like that exactly like how I dreamed it. And obviously there were ebbs and flows, and like I know we were all on that team for a number of years. There were some definitely tougher times throughout those 4 or 5 years when stuff wasn't looking quite as good as it is now.
Right.
But it was definitely, something. I think for me it was just like, why not? Nobody really thought I would even get a chance at Pitt. Not that like people were like looking down at me or anything, but just there was no really like reason to be like, oh yeah, Cal's gonna start at Pitt for 5 years. Like just wasn't really like what came to people's minds. So for me it was just kind of like, hey, this is what I want to do. Like I have a chance to play Power 5 football, which has just like always been my dream. And for that I was just like, I'm just gonna like send it, go for it. And having Ryan Winslow as a role model was awesome, because he was like he's always just a send it type of guy. Like
he was
on
the
game
OG
days,
specialist.
Exactly.
He was the guy.
He's just a great Pitt legend as well. He's got his name on the varsity walk. He's a legend. So it's great to have him as a role model as well, and just help lead me off on the right foot and kind of build some confidence and just an attitude of like, why not?
All right, I hear you. Well, now we got to hit you with this question: Who you going with, Kirky or your mentor, Ryan Winslow?
Like in a what are we?
You have
we
to
talking like
right this is going to get posted as a
clip. If you had to save one person, would it be Winslow?
They're both on a cliff.
Yeah.
You ever see
terrible.
You ever see Batman Forever?
No, I
That's
haven't.
2
Jimmy.
episodes of you referencing Batman.
Sorry, Jimmy.
That's 2.
Well, basically, there's a situation in which Two-Face puts 2 of Robin or Batman's allies, Robin and Batgirl, in a cage. He's going to drop both of them. He can only save one. He ends up saving both because he's Batman, but you don't have those capabilities.
Come on, dude.
Point of the question.
So pretty much the same
not?
situation that we just talked
it's
about.
exactly the same situation we just said.
Okay.
Who would you save, though?
You know what, dude?
He's
I'm
really
gonna have to
thinking
say
about it.
because Kirk would want me to say Winslow
I
because
hear
Winslow was like a father. We literally call Winslow Poppy.
That's
we
dad.
call him
Ooh.
like Daddy or Poppy. Like that's literally like we text him. We're like, "What's up,
This
Poppy?"
is taking a turn. Oh my god!
Anytime he like texts us good luck, we're like, "Thanks, Dad." Like
That's
he is literally our dad. So like
Yeah.
you got to save your dad. And if it was the same situation, I would tell Kirk to save Winslow as well.
I hear it. Well, Ryan, if you're listening to this, we love you. Obviously,
We do.
If it's
Hope to-
not
hope to
known-
You're a
get you on the
legend,
pod
proud
sometime.
Pitt man.
Definitely. Now, obviously, we got to talk about the hair because the hair kind of defined you as a player for me. I know people are going to be like, "Oh, great long snapper, whatever," but for me, I looked at Cal. I'm like, "That's poor Thor." When he dressed up as poor Thor for Halloween,
that was a top 5 Halloween
that was so-
costume ever.
I laughed out loud when I saw you that night.
That was super underrated. Like I
Yeah.
think that was a great costume.
right. It was
Cal, I
fantastic.
feel like Cal always killed the costume portion
oh,
of
he
it.
had great
Creative.
costumes,
Yeah.
yeah.
When I
I
get
mean,
the creative juices flowing,
It was never expensive. It was all creativity, and that's
right.
what I really
that's how Mrs.
appreciate.
Adomitis taught me.
That's beautiful.
She said, we're not buying a Halloween costume.
That's
We're
great.
being creative, and you're still going to have the best Halloween costume. And that's what it was, man. Every year, the McIntyre Elementary Halloween Parade, Adomitis had the best costumes because you couldn't buy them in stores.
What are some of the highlights from the elementary school parade?
Well, I used to always do something like military.
Yeah.
But like my mom would like she would do some cool like face paint. Like we'd get some face paint going, make me like look camo.
Wow.
Or like there were some good pirate costumes where we would like take an old pair of jeans and like cut them up
That's
and
beautiful.
just like make just put stuff together and be creative with it.
I was a pirate once.
Oh.
Captain Jim Sparrow.
Yeah.
That was cool. I just liked wearing the eye black though. What
I
about
just think you
Jake?
liked walking around without a
I
shirt
was-
on, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I was more of a Power Ranger. I like to
Typical.
be incognito.
You just
Stay under the
We saw
max,
that
but
coming.
I'll-
I totally.
I mean,
see
I'll
it.
beat the hell out of some people if I have to. So.
Which Power Ranger?
That was the blue one.
Blue Ranger.
One. Yeah, Blue Ranger.
That's really exciting stuff.
So-
but back to the hair is what we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's where all this started. The hair.
Right.
What made you grow it out? Were you just a long hair guy? Were you like, I'm growing it out to a point? We'll get into like what you did with community service with it, but like what made this hair journey start?
Dude, it was just another decision based on kind of me coming to Pitt and being like, I'm just gonna like do whatever I want to do, because I went to Central Catholic and there was like a dress code, so like your hair couldn't touch your collar.
Really?
And then the spring of my senior year, I was just like, I'm gonna keep growing my hair until they tell me to cut it. And so I made it through the spring semester, and like they never made me cut it, which was cool. And then, that was May. And then by the time I got to Pitt at June, like it had gotten a little longer to the point where they probably would have made me cut it at Central.
Right.
And then I think kind of after, I could be wrong, but from my perspective, I think that play versus Duke, when I like ran down the field without my helmet on, was kind of when like people started to notice my hair a little bit.
I mean,
Because-
that just showed the grit
That was the
of
grittiest play. Yeah.
Pitt long snappers, and that's
That was just me being afraid to like stop.
yeah, well, yeah. But that's something I want to ask you. Like, I feel like you look at like some of the dudes who snapped at Pitt before you, like Pat Quirin and like all the other guys that I don't know their names, but they seem like tough ass dudes. Like, do you think there's a certain pride that comes with being the Pitt long snapper, and that type of grit that goes into that?
I mean, I definitely like to think there is, because in past years, definitely all the snappers that Pitt have been like football guys, just not someone who's, parents sent them to a snapping camp when they were 6 or like not 6, like maybe 6th grade. Because you'd be surprised nowadays how early kids start like just long snapping, which is just like, I mean, and I know in all of us in youth, like that was not a thing.
No.
Like even up through high school,
Play all
like
3 sports.
yeah, exactly. So, obviously Pat Quirin, like he played guard at Central. He was a great, like tough, football player. And then the guy before him, I believe his name was Ryan Murphy, another good ball player, tough guy. So I like to think that there's a little bit of tradition. And then obviously too with, Pat Quirin now, being a Special Forces Green Beret is like
Oh yeah.
nuts,
Pat Quirin, thank you for your service, by the way.
Yeah, thank
Appreciate
you. We salute the troops.
Yeah. There is a certain type of grit, though, certainly, that goes along not only with long snapping, but Pittsburgh in general. So, like, when you look at the city as a whole, when you look at the campus, the university, the sports programs, like, what elements of that do you embody into your own play, do you think?
I mean, I don't think about it a whole lot because, like, I'm being honest, too. Like, I'm from the suburbs, so, like, I'm not, like, born in a steel mill. Like, but I just love Pittsburgh.
That was that was the Cal origin story I had in mind. I pictured you, like, would go from school straight to the mill,
well, dude,
work until 9.
He was
my
a
lunch.
Penn State recruit. I mean, it
Totally
kind of makes
changed the whole
sense.
narrative.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
probably
Whole
texted
perception.
James Franklin right before this.
Right, yeah, you guys must be BFFs.
Wow, guys.
Nah,
That's
we're-
hurtful. That's very hurtful.
We get the story.
Yeah.
We get the story.
No, but I just think, there's, for me, I think it has a lot to do with, like, just how you're raised, too, because, like, although I definitely, grew up in a bit of a better part of Pittsburgh, like, my parents both were from definitely just parts of Pittsburgh that are just, like, my dad's from Duquesne, so that's, like, right on the Mon River, just
Right.
like a mill town. Like, everyone worked in the Duquesne Works and then went to Duquesne High School. My dad was lucky enough to have the opportunity to go to Central and then go to college, so he kind of was able to get out of there, like, right at the right time because
Right.
the 80s when he was graduating high school was when, like, the mills all were shutting down, everything was tanking, like, thousands and thousands of people just going out of work. And, like, it's interesting, too, talking to him about, like, Pitt football back in the day and the Steelers back in the day, and, like, obviously everything's glorified because, like, yeah, like, both teams were just winning. It'd be like national championship, Super Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Super Bowl, Pirates World Series, like, just winning.
City of Champions.
Bang, bang, bang.
But
Yep.
if that wouldn't have happened, like, Pittsburgh would probably just not even be a skeleton of the city that it is now.
I imagine.
Like, sports literally held, like, Pittsburgh out of the water.
Now, see,
completely.
this is the Pittsburgh.
I get fired
the
up
Prince of
talking about it,
Pittsburgh,
and
dude,
that's
the St. Paul of Pittsburgh.
This
right
is the
there.
kind of stuff that I grew up, like, hearing, like, every time we watched a Pirate or Steeler game. Like,
Right.
somehow we just start talking about old Pittsburgh memories, and, like, it's just so indoctrinated in me that, like, I don't know.
Pitt.
It's just kind of a part of me, I guess.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
man.
and it's genuine too. Like, I mean,
Oh,
Cal,
for
Cal was
sure.
one of our captains this year, and just listening to
Yeah.
him talk, to the team about Pittsburgh pretty much every week, like, you could feel it. And
Yeah.
it was
Absolutely. Well, that's another question I wanted to ask you is, what was that like when you heard that you were going to be voted as one of the team captains this year? Because, like, I know how much that meant to you from knowing you, but, like, the people that tune into this might not know just how much that meant to you. So please take this opportunity
Yeah.
and tell them.
I mean, it was honestly probably, like, to that point, like, one of the most, like, just awesome moments of my life. Like, I obviously was hoping that, through my 5 years just kind of being, like, a consistent hard worker that, like, eventually guys would maybe notice it. Like, it wasn't for being noticed, but, like, if it would get noticed, it would definitely mean a lot. And when Coach Narduzzi, like, told us who had been voted captain, it was, like, after the last camp practice, and he started out, he was like, yeah, like, we got our final, captain votes tallied. So, first guy, it's the obvious vote, second year captain, Kenny Pickett.
Right.
And then everyone's like, all right, cool. And then, next guy, he's, big part of our defense. He's going to make it a lot of plays, hold it down the middle for us, like Desmond Alexander. I was like, all right, cool. And he was like, last guy, he definitely showed he really wanted to be a captain this offseason, and he's had a great camp. Cam Bright is going to be a captain. And he was like, all right, that's all. Let's break it down. And I was like, all right, that's fine. He was like, no, I'm just kidding. We got one more captain. And I was like, yes.
That's awesome.
I knew it was going to happen.
I
and
wish
he,
I could have been there for
yeah,
you.
and then he was like, this
amazing.
last guy, this might be my first time I've ever seen this, but our long snapper, Cal Adomitis. And I was
That's
just
so
like,
awesome,
it was sweet. I was trying my best not to get choked up, but it was definitely awesome. And I know when we went to that, the kickoff luncheon after, and I texted my dad because he wanted to come either way and just kind of like, it's a cool event.
Oh, yeah.
And I texted him, and I was just like, hail to Pitt. It's a good day to be an Adomitis. And, like, didn't tell him. And then and he said he liked the message. I forget exactly what he said back, but I remember talking to him afterwards. He was like, as soon as I saw that text, I was like, I had a feeling, but I also knew you probably wanted me to be surprised. So he was so fired up, and
Yeah.
it was cool.
Dude,
That's
he's your dad is the man. And,
He's
dude.
a legend.
After pro day, we went out and we had dinner and some drinks with Mr. Adomitis.
Oh, yeah.
And Mr. Adomitis, you're the man.
We salute you.
Yeah, he could not have been more juiced up. I mean, I can't imagine after your pro day, like, performing at that and having the hay in the barn. Now you're just waiting for the call. Like, how How proud and how excited has your dad been?
It's been awesome. I mean, it's almost my brother and I almost at times get a little annoyed with how excited it is, but at the same time we don't fall far from the tree. We're the same way. We get super fired up easily too, and can't go without shouting out my mom as well.
Of course, yeah.
When I went to Pitt originally,
I'll take the blame for that one.
But yeah, when I went to Pitt originally, obviously I was a preferred walk-on, so I wasn't on scholarship. But my mom works at the School of Dental Medicine, so no matter what, even if I wouldn't have got put on scholarship, I still would have had some financial aid. So that definitely was a key part of me having the opportunity to pursue my dream at Pitt. So we got to shout out Mrs. A as well.
Right, that's
She's
fantastic. Awesome. Well, you've had so many good moments from earning the scholarship to becoming a captain. If you had to really pin one down, this is hard. We asked Kenny the same thing. What is that moment at Pitt that's just this is the pinnacle of everything you worked for, ACC championship?
ACC champion, no brainer. Smoking a cigar in the locker room, ACC championship.
That's
just
great.
Kirk and I sitting there, just tired. But the locker room is just I don't know if there's roles, but there were lots of stogies going around in the locker room, and that place was just smelled like cigars and just that trophy. And I mean, we must have sat in there for a while,
we were
just chilled out, and we were like, dude, I can't believe we won the ACC championship. And then, but a great precursor to that was the week before versus Syracuse when we got the 10th win. And we come in the locker room and we're just obviously pumped up as well because 10th win, first time in I think it was since 81, a 10-win regular season. Yeah. And I'm sitting down taking off my spikes, and Jake Z comes by me and daps me up. He's like, "Who'd have thought this group of win 10 games?" And I was like,
dude, it's funny because it's obviously we did something cool, but you just look around and these are guys that we've been with.
Just a
all
lot
the
of
funny stuff that goes on at the facility. It's just damn, I can't believe this group of
yeah, it was not what you would expect. Yeah. You expect you're A-list with all due respect, Los Angeles Rams type super teams, you know, but with our team, it just felt like just a bunch of buddies who were we playing Division I football or just playing rec league, basketball? I don't know. Sometimes it was tough to tell.
Yeah. So
it was fun watching you guys, man. It was.
Yeah. And speaking of, all those wins and obviously celebrating them after.
Absolutely.
You did have you were pretty consistent this year of going out with your travel suit on.
Yes.
After the games.
It did become a tradition.
And so just walk us through that decision. And first off, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was the best thing ever. Just walk us through, what went into that, what did you, how'd you feel about it? And yeah.
Well, Jimmy or Jake, I apologize. Sorry about that. I was just getting fired up.
We're very similar. Don't be ashamed. In fact, we sometimes switch names.
Yeah, we should switch seats next time. That's
that's a good idea.
Throw everyone in a loop.
It'll be confusing.
Right,
when you're a captain, even though I'm not the guy always throwing touchdown passes or making big plays, gotta find times to rally the boys.
Yeah, and that was one of them.
And I think it was kind of something that just happened on the fly, because I'd also become a tradition where after every home game, my family and I, and usually Kirk would come as well, would go right to the Hofbrauhaus and have some nice German food and a big old stein of a beer and just get right into it. And I forget what weekend it was, but we finished up. We were probably there a little later than expected, and it had to have been earlier on the season because I pretty much from the get-go did that. After every game. Yeah. And my parents were like, "Oh, you want us to drop us off at your apartment? You need to get changed?" And I was like, "You know what? Just drop me off at the Ward Street house. I'm ready to go. Just pull up and let me out. I'm good. I'm already in the zone."
The Ward Street house is going to get dropped a few times on this podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna buy it. Yeah, one day we're gonna have enough funds to buy it.
And the thing too that it was because obviously we're an older team, so I loved that we spent a lot of time at Mario's Oakland. I thought that was great, just kind of staying in the heart of it in Oakland and kind of bringing some of that fun and energy to Oakland as opposed to just the South Side or North Shore. Just having that in Oakland I think was special. And so for me too, it's Mario's Oakland's definitely a younger undergrad crowd, and a lot of us are grad school older guys.
24.
Yeah, 23, 24. So for me, I'm just I'm not really going there to talk to girls or whatever. So I'm you know what? I don't really care. I'm just going to do something that gets the guys fired up. And,
Yeah.
I'm already sweating through the thing. So, if I spill a little beer on it, boo-hoo, I got to wash it anyway.
Yeah.
So, that was definitely another factor where I was just like, it solidified my mission of just, this is all about the boys. This is about the team.
Yeah.
This is not about each guy trying to, talk smooth to some ladies or something like that.
Team guys.
Spoken like a true captain right there. That is the epitome of a captain.
With great power comes great responsibility,
I
Jimmy.
like that, yeah.
Although that's Spider-Man, but
That
he's
is.
cool too.
I'm not upset that you messed up with superhero. But it's fine. Anyway, so you obviously have done so many good things on the field, but off the field, incredible guy, incredible role model for everyone that you've ever had, the privilege of working with. What is it about community service that really has been ingrained in you early to make that such a part of your life?
I mean, I definitely think going to Central Catholic had an effect on that because, you go through there and they definitely do, pretty regularly preach to you, faith scholarship service is like the motto at Central, and then from that point on too, it definitely was, for me, I think it just helped me keep perspective. And I found that as my career went on, I definitely got more into community service just because as things started to go better and even at times when things were rough, community service, it just always made me feel good. And a lot of times too, when I was in a time in my life where I was a little unsure what my football career, even athletic career or just future would look like in general, I just kind of remember thinking man, God, if you give me a chance to make something of myself, I'm gonna be a good guy and give back. I'm gonna try my best to do that. And as those things have started to happen and playing right away was just a dream for me. And I was just I have to in some way try to remain humble and grateful for that opportunity. And as things just started to come together more, it was just a perfect storm where I was just I need to keep doing this. And it has just kind of been a hand-in-hand thing. Obviously I've been just as much of a knucklehead as any college kid throughout their years, but just I've tried, and it was something definitely my parents growing up preached to me, that just if you have the chance to give back in some way, that's your responsibility. It becomes your responsibility once you have a platform to at least do something or just try to in some way.
Yeah. And I know, what was the award that you received? Is that the All-State?
Yeah, the AFCA Good Works team. It's like a All-American team for guys who've done a lot in the community.
Right, and there's been a long line of Pitt guys who've stood that. Didn't Caprera, I think?
Yeah, Caprera, yep. James Conner. I think Trey was actually in 2016.
Yeah, Trey
or maybe 2017, yeah.
Trey had another wonderful honor with Disney.
Yep, absolutely. The Spirit Award, yeah.
Spirit Award, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. But obviously the big thing with NIL this year is you decided to, instead of using NIL to kind of bring money into your own pocket, you used NIL to bring money into an admirable cause. So tell me about it. Tell me about what you did with Children's. Tell me why you shaved that beautiful head of hair. Poor Thor, no more.
That's right. So honestly, the very mustard seed of the idea started about freshman year in Sutherland Hall with Owen and Carter. They were just kind of busting my balls. We're how much would we have to pay you to shave your head? And I was just I don't know, a couple $1,000s. And they're just oh, there's no way. And then obviously that's something you can't actually do at that point in time because of some NCAA rules. And then with this summer, with some of the policies that changed, I was that maybe we could actually do some sort of, because I obviously knew about Brett Kiesel with his Shear the Beard initiative and raising money for Children's. And then my oldest brother, when we were kids, he used to help out with the Children's Hospital telethon. So everyone's always aware of Children's Hospital and the work they do. And then it was actually a couple days after I'd found out I was voted captain, kind of was just well, hopefully being a captain, I might have a little bit more of a kind of, I guess, vocal, scene role on the team, and it'd be cool as the long snapper to do something that kind of just gives a good light. Because obviously, it's obviously, Kenny's the quarterback, Dez is a defensive star, Cam's a defensive star, and, not a lot of people know a lot about the long snapper, so I also didn't want to give him any reason to be oh, why is this dude the captain? So with that a little bit in the back of my mind, I also went to Celeste Welsh, who's our head of community service, and just kind of pitched her. I was hey, do you think I could do a fundraiser, raise a certain amount of money, and then, if we raise the money, like we'll shave my head. And
So
she was
awesome.
like fired up. She's like, oh, that is such a great idea.
It was.
And I was like, oh, sweet. Like, cool. It sounded cool in my head. But like when she was excited too, I was like, okay, like we might actually have something.
Yeah.
And then she talked to EJ as well, who is our media guy, obviously. And like he loved it too. And I was like, well, sweet. That's great to have those two. And then they told Coach LaSala, and like he was fired up as well. And I was like, well, dang, like looks like everyone is like on board with this. So they called up Children's Hospital, and then like a week later we had a meeting with two ladies from Children's Hospital, and they loved the idea as well. And they were like, yeah, like what do you want the goal to be? And I was like, well, like it might be lofty, but you know what, might as well go all in. Like I'm number 94, like let's do 94,000. And I kind of said it thinking like it'd be a stretch, and she's like, no, we're absolutely getting that much. Like you should set at least 100,000. Yeah. And I was like, oh, all right, sweet. Like
Right.
that's great. And they're like, we're gonna make sure like every chance we get, like it's gonna be in the media and like in the games, and like try to play videos at the games about it. And I was like, well, sweet. Like it was almost a little overwhelming at first because like it wasn't really about like bringing attention to like me or anything like that, but definitely like with it, I was at that point I was like, okay, like I'm definitely gonna be spending a lot of time like in front of the media and like cameras with stuff like that.
You became the face of that movement essentially. I mean, it was your thing. So
yeah.
What was the total?
The final tally was 121,000.
I didn't know. I didn't know it got that high.
Yeah.
Hey, give me one. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm gonna force you to do that.
I told you we're not doing it.
No,
You
we're
got me
doing
it
that.
like an idiot.
I'm gonna keep using the
my
emojis
God.
on our.
But
social.
also huge shout out to obviously Kenny for throwing tons of touchdowns, because certain games, certain big wins, like VTech for example, there was a $25,000 increase in that one day in donations because we whooped VTech's butt. Kenny popped off, and I remember being on in the locker room after the game, checking and seeing a text from Celeste. She was like, "OMG, like College Game Day said something about Cal's kids," and then we kicked their butt, obviously.
Right, yeah.
And like in the game, there were like $15,000 worth of donations, and then we flew back. And then I remember being in the Ward Street backyard chilling out, and checked my phone again, and Celeste had texted me, and she's like, the Vardabadian family just donated $10,000, which they're big softball donors. Like the softball field's named after them.
Right.
And I was like, what? And I checked the total, and literally in that one day there was $25,000 increase in donations.
Insane.
So like definitely Children's Hospital and the fundraiser, it was awesome that just the excitement around Pitt football like was also able to be channeled in that way.
You did great things for yourself, the university, those kids, obviously, the hospital. I mean, truly. I mean, can we give them another one? My God, I'm tearing up over here.
So talking about that Virginia Tech game, you know, it was a big game in Virginia.
Yep.
And speaking of big games, well, I guess it's West Virginia.
Oh my gosh. Dude.
Oh God.
Yeah. So next year, Pitt is obviously set to take on West Virginia. I know it's killing me that I'm not going to be able to be in that game. I feel like the Backyard Brawl probably means something to you, so
I need a sip of water
go
before
ahead.
we get into this.
Go ahead, do your thing, bud. Take a rest here.
we'll take a quick break here.
We got 10 more minutes, so let's just roll.
Yeah.
We'll roll through.
Yeah,
then
we'll talk about WV and then.
Yeah.
All right, listen up. Listen up.
All right, so speaking of big games, there's a big game on the schedule next year, and that's Pitt versus West Virginia. And I feel like, you know, I know not being able to play in the Backyard Brawl, those were the games that I always went to growing up. So, like, for you to not be able to play in that, like, how bad would you want to play in that game? And another question, how excited are you to watch that next year?
I mean, definitely, you know, for me, honestly, growing up in my personal experience, I always was more into the Pitt-Penn State rivalry.
Okay.
And it meant a lot to me to, like, play in those games. And, you know, unfortunately, none of those went our way in our years in that rivalry. But, you know, learned a lot of valuable lessons and just kind of grew a lot as a person through that. Because for me, it was a little personal. However, with the rebirth of the Backyard Brawl,
Dude.
I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
if you
excited.
guys could
And
feel the tension in this room right now, radiating.
I'm going to
from
say
Cal.
something real quick. Could I say something real quick?
speak your mind,
I'm
Jake.
going to speak right to the
Say it-
mic.
say it
and
to the heart,
I
Jake.
want
Go ahead.
all the people of West Virginia to listen to me very carefully.
Damn right.
On Thursday, September 1st of 2022, Pitt is playing West Virginia for the first game of the college football season. You're going to get your kicked in Heinz Field.
Oh my God.
We're going to embarrass you on national television
Jeez, oh man.
in front of the whole world to see, and then we're going to celebrate all weekend.
Damn right.
Well,
I got a message for Panther Nation too. Which camera do I look into?
You're down the pipe here.
Yeah.
Panther Nation. Backyard Brawl. First game in 11 years. Pitt West Virginia rivalry is back. All right. Last two didn't go our way. That's all right. All right. But if every person in Pittsburgh follows this recipe, the Pitt Panthers will be victorious. All right. First thing you do, you wake up in the morning, you go straight to the Strip District, DeLuca's Diner. All right.
Oh,
I love
boy.
Pamela's.
There we
I love
go.
Kelly's. Love Cafe Raymond. All great places, but DeLuca's, that's Pittsburgh's best breakfast. All right. You're getting two eggs over easy. You're getting the bacon. You're getting the corned beef hash. All right. You're getting Mancini's Italian bread. If you're a health person, I'm sorry, you're not eating wheat bread. All right. You're eating Mancini's Italian bread. Okay. Then you're getting your ass up and you're going over to St. Stanislav's. All right. You're gonna say a couple prayers with some of the old Polish people. All right. Get some good vibes going. Finish up picking up a pepperoni roll from Sinceri's right there in the Strip. All right. And then you're taking your ass over to the North Shore and you're drinking as much Iron City Light as your Yinzer body can handle. And then you're going to go into Heinz Field. You're going to listen to Brad Townsend and the Pitt Band play the greatest rendition of the Star Spangled Banner you will ever hear in your life. You're going to stand, you're going to salute the flag, salute Old Glory, and then you're going to say, "Dear God, please have mercy on the West Virginia Mountaineers because Pat Narduzzi and his Pitt Panthers will not." Hail to Pitt. Backyard Brawl is back.
Oh, welcome. Perfect Thursday approves. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. Cal, I was going to close the show with something, but you did it for me, baby.
Hail to
Let's
Pitt,
get
baby.
a roll. There we go.
Cal.
Woo.